How to know which party is truly for the poor? A Skywalker Commentary. Remember to hit the like button, subscribe, and leave your comment down below. My people, let's reason. Every election season, the air is thick with promises. Every platform is painted in bright colors. Every microphone is hot with sweet talk. And every party says the same thing: we are for the poor. And many of the poor don't even know that they won't sit around and be fed, because that's not how it works. So when one party comes and say we will provide jobs, that party becomes the villain, because by the other party handing out for the election, the uneducated poor believe that this is how it will go as long as that party, the party of their choice, is in power. Most times, the party that claims to love the poor most will deceive them in that way. Wherever you see the poor gathered without stretched hands, that is the pork barrel party that makes the poor believe in handouts which can never work. That is, in a way, a kind of FINSAC, for it will now make everybody poor. If you use the state resources to hand out to party faithful all day, which will mostly be those masses of poor people that support you, the money has to be coming from somewhere. And it's a kind of feedback. The country will suffer. But here is the truth. If you want to know which party is truly for the poor, you can't just listen to the speeches. You can't just watch the rallies. You can't just swallow the propaganda. You have to check the record. You have to follow the money. You have to look at the results, because talk is cheap, but poverty is expensive, and the poor have been paying the price for decades. So let's set the standard. Let's build a checklist. If a party says it's for the poor, here's what they must deliver. Not in theory, not in manifesto, but in reality. One, wages and jobs. Regular minimum wage increases that keep pace with inflation. Job creation programs targeting low income communities. Skills training and apprenticeships for unemployed youth. Two, healthcare. Free or heavily subsidized healthcare for all. Expansion of clinics and hospitals in underserved areas. Removal of user fees for essential services, including school. Education. Free tuition at primary and secondary level and tertiary for low income students. School feeding programs so no child learns on an empty stomach. Free school buses for rural and inner city children. 4. Social protection. Pension substitutes for elderly without NIS or NHT. Cash transfers or food vouchers for the poorest households. Disability support grants. 5. Housing. Social housing for the most vulnerable. Affordable housing scheme for low income earners. Rent to own options for informal workers. 6. Public safety and community development. Anti-gang initiatives that replace gang influence with jobs, sports, and mentorship. Community policing and violence interruption programs. Investment in safe public spaces and youth centers. Economic fairness. No policies that transfer wealth from the poor to the rich, like what happened in the FINSAC era. Tax policies that don't disproportionately burden the bottom third. That's the checklist. That's the standard. And if a party can't tick those boxes, they are not for the poor, no matter how sweet the speech. The record speaks, as it always does. We remember the FinSac years, the 1990s financial sector meltdown that, according to the FinSac Commission archives, wiped out thousands of small farmers, shopkeepers, and business owners, transferring assets to large financial players. The Gleaner called it the tragic folly of FINSAC, noting that it split Jamaica's business community into two classes: a small group of cash rich interest earners and a much larger group of indebted, collapsing enterprises. Hmm, poor man business, right? We remember 3 consecutive terms in office without raising the minimum wage, leaving the poorest workers stuck while inflation ate away their earnings. The Ministry of Labor's own records show that between 1992 and 2002, the minimum wage was adjusted only sporadically and never enough to match cost of living increases. We remember when gangster culture was allowed to fill the vacuum in poor communities. When the state left the garrison to the devices of dance, and the poor had to choose between hunger and loyalty to the man with the gun. And we also see the present, where one leader has pledged to double the minimum wage from 16,000 to 32,000 over the next few years, starting with an increase to 18,500 in the first budget that's coming up soon. That's a direct benefit to the bottom third, the people who actually earn minimum wage. We see another leader promising to raise the income tax threshold to 3.5 million. That's a big break for middle income earners, but the poorest third who already earn below the current threshold won't see a cent more in their pockets. That's a policy tilted toward the middle, not the bottom, while in fact those at the bottom will have to subsidize. The contrast is this, and let's be clear: minimum wage increases put money directly into the hands of the poorest workers. Tax threshold increases help those who already earn enough to pay income tax, which excludes the poorest entirely. Hmm? One policy is a lifeline to the bottom third, the other is a cushion for the middle half. And when we talk about being for the poor, we have to ask who gets the first plate when the food is served. Jamaicans have a way of spotting the real from the fake. We don't need a man to shout from the rooftop that he's for the poor. We can see it in his works. It's like track and field. The loudmouth can talk all day, but when the gun goes off, the stopwatch tells the truth. Usain Bolt didn't need to talk down to his rivals. He smiled, he danced, and then he silenced them with world records. The poor don't need politicians to talk down to their opponents. They need politicians to lift them up with policies that work. Minimum wage raised regularly, doubled over time, are left stagnant for years. Jobs created in poor communities are promised and forgotten. Which one? Healthcare, free and accessible. The JLP has maintained the no user fee policy in public hospitals. Education, free tuition, free buses, school feeding. The government rolled out 60 rural school buses in 2025 and continues the national school feeding program, serving over 225,000 students. Pensions, safety net for the elderly poor. The Elderly Care and Protection Act is being drafted to address gaps. Housing, social homes built and delivered. The new social housing program has already completed 293 houses for the most vulnerable. Public safety, gangs replaced with opportunity. Our garrisons left to the dance. Public safety, gangs replaced with opportunity. or garrisons left to the dance? Which one? Huh? Which one? Economic fairness, wealth flowing down or wealth flowing up, as in the FINSAC years. Hmm? When you fill in that scoreboard with the last 30 years of Jamaican policies, the picture becomes clear. One side has a record of leaving the poor to fend for themselves while wealth moves upward. The other, at least in recent years, has put forward policies that directly touch the bottom third. Directly. So here is the message to every voter, every worker, every parent, every elder. Don't let propaganda pick your party. Don't let sweet talk buy your vote. Ask the hard questions. Who raised your pay? Who built your house? Who gave your child a bus to school? Who made sure you could see a doctor without pulling at your wallet? Who kept the gangs out of your community? Eh? Who kept the gangs out of your community? And if the answer is nobody, then you know that party is not for you. My people, poverty is not an accident, it's the result of policy. And prosperity is not a gift, it's the result of policy too. The poor don't need pity, they need power. They need policies that put them first. They need leaders who see them not as a photo opportunity, but as the foundation of the nation. They don't need leaders that say they put them first. They need leaders that actually put them first. So when you step into that voting booth, remember, don't vote for the speech, vote for the record. Don't vote for the promise, vote for the proof, and take that wisdom with you going onward to forever. Because the party that is truly for the poor is the one that has already shown it in wages, in jobs, in homes, in healthcare, in safety, in dignity. And when you find that party, stand with them, not because of the color they wear, but because of the lives they live. That's how we know. That's how we choose. That's how the poor will rise. And it is why, at this time in Jamaica, the third term has loaded for Andrew Holness, and Mark Golding is trapped in a September 3rd time loop, gridlocking our road to independence with every strength he's got.